Imagine spending $500 million on the ultimate stealth weapon, a submarine so quiet that NATO calls it the black hole. You hide it behind layers of nets, booms, and patrols in what you believe is the safest harbor on Earth. You've moved it hundreds of kilometers from the front lines, you've fortified the surface, you've done everything right. And then, from the depths below, something small and cheap and brilliant slips underneath your defenses and snaps your billion-dollar monster in half. No, this isn't science fiction. This isn't a thought experiment. This happened a few weeks ago. For over a century, submarines have been untouchable, the ultimate expression of naval power designed to disappear into the ocean's darkness and strike without warning. They were so expensive, so complex, so devastatingly effective that only the wealthiest nations could field them. They were the kings of the deep, until they weren't. What you're about to experience is the story of how a homemade Ukrainian underwater drone called the Sea Baby, costing roughly what a nice house costs, hunted down and destroyed Russia's Varshavyanka-class submarine while it sat safely in port. This is the story of how innovation just rewrote 100 years of naval doctrine in a single explosion. And this is the story of why every admiral, every defense planner, and every navy on Earth is waking up to a terrifying new reality. The ocean has no safe spaces anymore. Let's set the scene. Novorossiysk, a heavily fortified Russian naval port on the Black Sea, hundreds of kilometers east of the contested waters around Crimea. After Ukraine turned Sevastopol into a graveyard for Russian warships using surface drones and missiles, Moscow made a calculated decision: retreat the crown jewels to Novorossiysk, surround them with physical nets, deploy floating booms, station constant patrols, build a fortress. The Russians looked at their harbor defenses and saw safety. They saw layers of protection. They saw barriers that surface drones couldn't penetrate. However, they were looking at the wrong part of the water. While Moscow fortified the surface, Ukraine went deep. The Sea Baby doesn't skim across waves where thermal cameras can spot it. It doesn't announce its presence. It operates completely submerged, a remotely piloted underwater vehicle that moves like a patient, intelligent torpedo through the darkness below. Think about what this thing accomplished. It navigated a maze of harbor, one of the most acoustically noisy, structurally complex environments imaginable. It used that noise as camouflage, masking its own motor sounds amid the constant hum of commercial shipping. It found the defensive nets and simply went under them, exploiting a fatal flaw. The barriers only extended a few meters deep. Then, it homed in on its target using the acoustic signature of the submarine's own generator. The very systems meant to keep the vessel operational became its death sentence. Inside the Sea Baby's nose sat 450 kilograms of shaped charge explosives, nearly double the punch of a standard anti-ship missile. But unlike aerial weapons that hit superstructure, this strike came from below, targeting the pressure hull at the stern. When it detonated, the bubble jet effect snapped the submarine's spine, shattering the stern compartment, destroying the propulsion shaft, and fatally compromising the integrity of the entire vessel. The black hole will never dive again. Now, alongside the death of the submarine was the death of the assumption that expensive equals untouchable, the belief that depth equals safety, the idea that submarines are the ultimate survivable platform. For $500 million, Russia got a Varshavyanka-class submarine, one of the quietest diesel-electric platforms ever built, capable of launching caliber cruise missiles from concealed positions thousands of kilometers away. These vessels were strategic assets, mobile hidden launchers that could threaten cities, infrastructure, and military targets while remaining nearly invisible. And for just $200,000, the cost of a modest beach house, Ukraine built something that destroyed it. Let that ratio sink in. $200,000 versus $500 million, a cost advantage of 2,500 to 1. This isn't just about money, it's about what this represents, the complete inversion of naval warfare economics. Traditionally, attacking high-value targets required equally high-value weapons. Hunting submarines meant deploying other submarines, sophisticated aircraft, or elaborate sensor networks. All expensive, all complex, all requiring years of training and infrastructure. The Sea Baby changed that equation forever. It proved that precision, stealth, and innovation can overcome raw cost and complexity. It demonstrated that the barrier to entry beneath the sea just collapsed. Now, if you think the Novorossiysk strike was a fluke, you should consider what happened on June 3, 2025 at the Kerch Bridge. Ukrainian Special Forces carried out an underwater operation that reads like something from a thriller novel. Combat divers, using closed-circuit rebreathers to remain acoustically invisible, navigated beneath the bridge using sonar pingers and underwater GPS. They were supported by Marishka-class underwater drones, 6-meter-long stealth platforms with ranges up to 1,000 kilometers that can loiter beneath the surface for hours. Together, this team transported and carefully placed nearly 1 ton of explosives, roughly the weight of a small car, directly onto the bridge's support piers. Think about the logistics: multiple trips back and forth through contested waters, precise navigation in darkness, silent attachment of magnetized charges, all while evading detection. At 4:44 a.m., the explosives detonated. The blast caused severe structural damage, disrupting a critical supply route into occupied Crimea and demonstrating once again that even the most fortified infrastructure is vulnerable to small, determined teams equipped with the right technology. While detractors might say Ukraine is getting lucky, what's happening is that they actually are innovating faster than their adversary can adapt. Modern conflict increasingly rewards speed of adaptation over size of arsenal. The nation that can innovate faster, integrate new technology quicker, and exploit enemy vulnerabilities more creatively often prevails, even against numerically or economically superior forces. This is asymmetric warfare at its finest. Instead of trying to match Russia submarine for submarine, an impossibility given resource constraints, Ukraine targeted the vulnerability itself, the assumption that submarines are safe in port. They built a weapon specifically designed to exploit that assumption, and they did it for a fraction of the cost of what they destroyed. Consider the strategic implications. For attackers, low-cost drones allow repeated attempts. If one fails, send another. At $200,000 each, you can afford to probe defenses, learn from failures, and adapt tactics until you succeed. For defenders, you must succeed every single time. Every harbor requires comprehensive underwater sensor networks. Every approach must be monitored. Every potential threat must be identified and neutralized. The cost and resource burden is enormous, and even then, gaps will exist. The defender's dilemma has never been more acute. International sanctions compound the problem by disrupting supply chains, extending construction timelines, and dramatically increasing replacement costs. A submarine that might have cost $400 million under normal conditions now approaches $600 million when you factor in alternative suppliers, redesigned components, and extended production schedules. Meanwhile, underwater drones can be produced in workshops, modified in garages, and deployed from almost anywhere with access to water. For decades, the ocean depths represented one of the last true sanctuaries in warfare. If you could get deep enough, quiet enough, you were essentially invisible. Detection relied on sound, and the ocean is a noisy place. Submarines exploited this brilliantly, disappearing into thermal layers and acoustic shadows where sonar couldn't reach. Underwater drones shatter that sanctuary. They don't need crews, so they can take risks no human-operated platform could attempt. They don't need to surface, so they remain hidden throughout their entire mission. They can loiter for extended periods, patiently waiting for the perfect opportunity. Their small size and low acoustic signature make detection extraordinarily difficult using traditional sonar networks designed to find much larger submarines. This is why every Navy on Earth is scrambling right now. The underwater domain, long considered the exclusive playground of expensive submarines and specialized anti-submarine forces, has become accessible to anyone with engineering talent and modest resources. The ocean has become democratized. On December 15, 2025, in the darkness beneath the waves of Novorossiysk harbor, something fundamental changed. The assumption that submarines are untouchable, that depth equals safety, that cost equals security, died alongside that Russian Varshavyanka. What rose from those depths is more dangerous than any weapon, proof that innovation can rewrite the rules faster than tradition can adapt. The underwater revolution isn't coming, it's here. And every assumption about naval power, maritime security, and the balance of force at sea is being rewritten in real time by small teams with big ideas and relatively tiny budgets. The ocean's apex predator just learned what every dominant species eventually discovers. Extinction can come from the least expected direction. The question now isn't whether underwater drones will change naval warfare. They already have. The question is, who will adapt fast enough to survive in this new reality? Because one thing is certain, the deep is no longer a safe place to hide. If you enjoyed this video and would love to do a deep dive into videos like this, check our video, Ukrainian Missile Annihilates Russia's Air Fortress. Then, this happened. Link in the description below.